I stared at my reflection in the floor-to-ceiling window of my penthouse apartment, the Seoul skyline glittering behind me like scattered diamonds on black velvet. Beyond Wushik, that's me. 28 years old, self-made, and according to the business magazines, one of the most influential young entrepreneurs in the city. My pale skin seemed almost luminous in the dim lighting, my red lips pressed into a thin line as I adjusted the collar of my tailored shirt. My dark curly hair fell messily across my forehead, artfully tousled in that way that took more effort than anyone knew. "Mr. Bion, your car is ready," my assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "I'll be down in 5, I replied, my voice cool and measured. 5 years. It had been 5 years since I'd built these walls around my heart, brick by painful brick. 5 years since I'd decided that love was a luxury I could no longer afford. The city knew me as successful, charming, untouchable, an Omega who defied every expectation and carved out an empire in commercial real estate. What they didn't know was that every smile I gave, every flirtation I engaged in, was calculated, controlled. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the elevator, my mind drifting back to the reasons I'd become this way. Minjun had been first. Sweet, gentle Minjun from college, who I'd loved with the desperate intensity only a 20-year-old Omega experiencing first love could manage. I'd given him everything, my trust, my body, my future plans. Then I'd found him in our shared apartment with Soo-hyun, my classmate, their bodies tangled in sheets I'd bought. The betrayal had cut deeper than any physical wound. "It just happened, Wushik," Minjun had said, not even having the decency to look ashamed. "You're too soft. Too needy." After Minjun came Daehoon, who seemed different. Protective. Understanding. Until I discovered he'd been sleeping with Jeon, my best friend since high school, for months. They'd laughed about it, apparently. About how easy I was to fool. Jaehoon had been next. The one who admitted after 6 months that he'd never actually cared, that I was just fun to play with. And finally, Kwangmin, who'd pursued me relentlessly only to confess he just wanted to know what it felt like to date a rich Omega. Like I was some kind of exotic experience to check off his list. 4 times. 4 times I'd opened my heart, and 4 times it had been thrown back at me, shattered. The elevator doors opened to the underground garage where my driver waited. As I slid into the back seat of my Mercedes, I pushed those memories away. They served only one purpose now, to remind me why I'd never be vulnerable again. "Where to, Mr. Bion?" "The Aurora Club," I said. "I'm meeting potential investors." What I didn't say was that I'd also be doing what I did best now, collecting hearts and discarding them. There was a certain alpha who'd been pursuing me for weeks, some heir to a shipping company. Tonight, I'd let him think he was getting somewhere, let him fall a little deeper, then pull away. I'd perfected this dance. The chase, the near capture, the retreat. By the time I was done, they'd be so obsessed they couldn't think straight, and then I'd vanish, leaving them to understand just a fraction of the pain I'd endured. Was it cruel? Perhaps. Did I care? Not anymore. The Aurora Club pulsed with expensive energy, crystal chandeliers, imported marble, and the kind of exclusivity that came with a 6-figure membership fee. I navigated through the crowd with practiced ease, accepting greetings and admiring glances with a smile that never quite reached my eyes. Wushik. Taeyong, the shipping heir, appeared at my elbow with 2 glasses of champagne. "You look stunning as always." "You're too kind," I said, taking the glass and letting my fingers brush his for just a moment, long enough to make his breath catch, not long enough to seem intentional. We were mid-conversation about his company's expansion when I felt it, a prickling sensation at the back of my neck, like someone had turned a spotlight directly on me. I turned slightly, scanning the room, and my gaze collided with the most intense stare I'd ever experienced. He stood near the bar, and even in a room full of powerful people, he commanded attention. Tall, broad-shouldered, with sharp features that looked carved from stone. His dark hair was styled back, revealing a face that was both beautiful and terrifying in its intensity. But it was his eyes, dark, penetrating, absolutely focused on me, that made my breath hitch in a way I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. "Who is that?" I asked Taeyong, trying to keep my voice casual. Taeyong followed my gaze and paled slightly. "That's Jung Pyuo. You don't know him?" I shook my head, unable to look away. He's dangerous, Wushik. Like actually dangerous. His family controls half the underground in Seoul. People whisper that he's killed men with his bare hands." Taeyong moved slightly closer, protective instinct kicking in. "What? Is he bothering you?" Before I could answer, the man, Jung Pyuo, started walking toward us. The crowd seemed to part for him automatically, people stepping aside without even seeming to realize they were doing it. My Omega instinct screamed at me to submit, to lower my eyes, but I'd spent too many years building my strength to give in now. I kept my gaze level as he approached. Be on Wushik, he said, and his voice was like smoke and whiskey, rough and smooth all at once. He didn't phrase it as a question. And you are? I replied, even though I now knew exactly who he was. A slight smile curved his lips, like he knew I was playing a game. Jung Payuo. I'd like to speak with you. Taeyang shifted nervously beside me. Actually, we were just alone, Jung Payuo added, and though his voice remained calm, there was steel underneath that made it clear this wasn't a request. I should have refused. Every instinct for self-preservation told me to walk away from this alpha who radiated danger like heat from a flame. But there was something in his eyes, not the predatory interest I was used to, but something deeper, more genuine, that made me curious. It's fine, Taeyang, I said softly. I'll find you later. Taeyang looked like he wanted to argue, but one glance at Jung Payuo's face changed his mind. He bowed slightly and retreated into the crowd. Shall we? Jung Payuo gestured toward a private booth in the corner, away from the noise and crowd. The booth was secluded, curtained off from the main floor with rich velvet drapes. As soon as we sat down, a server appeared with a bottle of whiskey I recognized as costing more than most people's monthly rent. Jung Payuo dismissed the server with a wave of his hand and poured 2 glasses himself. I don't drink whiskey, I said. Then don't drink, he replied simply, pushing 1 glass toward me anyway. But I needed an excuse to get you alone. His directness was unsettling. I was used. Before we dive into this heartwarming, emotional, slow burn romance Omegaverse story, note, this is an original work of Milliflex channel. If seen in another channel that is not Milliflex, please report that channel for copyright and impersonation. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. Now let's dive in. To games, to careful social dances where intentions were hidden behind polite conversation. Why? Because from the moment I saw you walk into this club 3 months ago, I haven't been able to think about anything else. I blinked, genuinely surprised. 3 months? I'd only noticed him tonight. That's quite a line. It's the truth. He took a sip of his whiskey, his eyes never leaving mine. I've watched you, Wushik. The way you move through these crowds, collecting admirers like others collect business cards. The way you smile but your eyes stay empty. The way you let them get close then disappear. My heart started beating faster. No one had ever called me out so directly. You don't know anything about me. I know you're the most beautiful Omega I've ever seen, he said, and the raw honesty in his voice made heat crawl up my neck. I know you're brilliant. I've read about your business deals. I know you're untouchable, and I know there's a reason for that. And yet you approached me anyway. I kept my voice cool, controlled, even as something dangerous stirred in my chest. What makes you think you're different from all the others? I don't. His answer surprised me. I don't think I'm different. I think I'm probably worse given what I am, what I do. But I also don't care. Arrogant. Honest. He leaned forward slightly and I caught his scent, cedar and smoke with an underlying musk that made my Omega instincts purr in recognition. I forced them down ruthlessly. I want to know you, Wushik. Not the version you show the world, but the real you. I laughed and it sounded bitter even to my own ears. There is no real me anymore. This is what I am. I don't believe that. Then you're a fool. I stood up, suddenly needing distance from this alpha who seemed to see too much. Thank you for the drink I didn't have. Enjoy your evening, Mr. Jung. His hand shot out, catching my wrist, not hard enough to hurt but firm enough to stop me. The contact sent electricity racing up my arm. Have dinner with me? No. Why not? Because I don't date alphas who think they can possess me with pretty words and intense stares. I pulled my wrist free, fighting the urge to rub where his fingers had been. I'm not interested. Liar. But he released me, leaning back with that same slight smile. You're interested. You're just afraid. The accuracy of his statement made anger flash through me. I'm not afraid of anything. Then prove it. One dinner. If you still want nothing to do with me after, I'll leave you alone. It was a challenge and we both knew it. The smart thing would be to refuse, to walk away and add him to the list of people I'd frozen out. But something in me, some reckless, self-destructive part that I'd thought I'd buried, wanted to call his bluff. Fine, I heard myself say. One dinner. But on my terms, at a place of my choosing. His smile widened. Of course. I gave him the name of a restaurant, expensive, public, the kind of place where nothing inappropriate could happen, and a time 2 days from now. Then I left before he could say anything else that might shake the foundations I'd built so carefully. As my car pulled away from the club, I looked back through the tinted windows and saw him standing at the entrance, watching. Even from this distance, I could feel the weight of his gaze. What had I just agreed to? The next 2 days passed in a blur of meetings and strategic avoidance. Taeyong called 6 times, each message more worried than the last. Wushik, please reconsider. Jung Pyuo isn't someone to play games with. But I wasn't playing games. Or at least I was telling myself I wasn't. The truth was more complicated. Something about Jung Pyuo had gotten under my skin in a way no one had since I'd stopped allowing anyone to get under my skin. His directness, his refusal to play by the social rules I'd mastered, it was both infuriating and intriguing. The night of our dinner, I dressed with extra care, telling myself it was just armor, another mask to wear. A black silk shirt that complemented my pale skin, tailored trousers that showed off my slim figure, and subtle makeup that made my red lips stand out. My curly hair was artfully messy, and I spent longer than necessary making sure every curl fell just right. You look beautiful, my reflection seemed to mock me. And you're trying too hard. I arrived at the restaurant exactly on time, not early enough to seem eager, not late enough to be rude. Jung Pyuo was already there, seated at the best table with a view of the city lights. He stood when he saw me, and I noticed he'd dressed more formally than at the club. A dark suit that probably cost more than my car fitted perfectly to his powerful frame. Wushik, he greeted me, and the way he said my name felt intimate, like a caress. Mr. Jung, I replied coolly, taking my seat. Please call me Pyuo. He sat down across from me, and I noticed the server who appeared was practically trembling. Everyone knew who he was, what he was capable of. I'll stick with Mr. Jung, I said. This is just dinner, not the beginning of familiarity. He smiled like I'd said something amusing. As you wish. The dinner started formally enough. Wine selection, appetizer orders, small talk about neutral topics. But Pyuo had a way of turning even mundane conversations into something more. Tell me about your business, he said. How does an Omega barely out of university build a real estate empire in 5 years? Hard work, smart investments, refusing to let anyone underestimate me because of my designation, and probably crushing anyone who tried to stand in your way. I looked at him sharply, but there was no judgment in his expression, only curiosity. You say that like it's a bad thing. On the contrary, I admire it. He took a sip of wine. Too many Omegas let society tell them what they can and can't do. You decided to rewrite the rules. Says the Alpha who probably wrote his own rules from birth. Not from birth, he said, and something dark flickered in his eyes. I earned every bit of power I have, Wushik. I know what it's like to be underestimated, to have to prove yourself through blood and determination. Despite myself, I was curious. Tell me. He leaned back, studying me. Why should I? You've made it clear this is just one dinner to get me to leave you alone. Maybe I'm morbidly curious about what makes a mafia boss tick. Mafia boss, he repeated, amused. Is that what they're calling me? Among other things. What other things? I held his gaze. Ruthless, violent, dangerous. Should I go on? Only if you're trying to convince yourself to be afraid of me. He leaned forward, his voice dropping lower. But you're not afraid, are you, Wushik? That's what makes you different. He was right, and that terrified me more than anything. I should be afraid. This man controlled criminal empires, had probably done unspeakable things. But all I felt was that dangerous pull, that magnetic attraction I'd sworn I'd never feel again. Tell me about them, Pyuo said suddenly. Who? The ones who hurt you. The ones who made you build these walls so high. My chest tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. Wushik. He said my name gently, and that gentleness was somehow worse than any accusation. I see you. The real you underneath all this carefully constructed armor. Someone broke you, probably multiple someones. And you've spent years making sure no one ever gets close enough to do it again. I wanted to leave. Every instinct screamed at me to stand up, walk out, and never look back. But I was frozen, pinned by the understanding in his eyes. I heard myself whisper. 4 times I trusted, 4 times I was betrayed. Tell me, he said again, and this time it wasn't a command but an invitation. I don't know what possessed me to tell him. Maybe it was the wine or the way the city lights made everything feel unreal, or simply that I was tired of carrying these stories alone. But once I started, I couldn't stop. I told him about Minjun, about finding him with Soo-hyun, about how my first love had crumbled into ash and humiliation. I told him about Daehoon and Jiyeon, about the double betrayal of lover and best friend. I told him about Jaehoon's casual cruelty and Kwangmin's clinical confession that I'd just been an experiment. After Kwangmin, I decided I was done being the victim. I said, my voice steady despite the emotions churning inside me. I decided that if the world was going to treat my heart like it was worthless, I'd stop offering it. I'd take instead. I'd make them feel what I felt. And has it worked? Pyuo asked quietly. Has revenge made you happy? The question cut deeper than I wanted to admit. It's made me safe. Safe and happy aren't the same thing. Safe is enough. Is it? He reached across the table, his hand palm up, an offering not a demand. Because from where I'm sitting, you look like you're drowning in safety. I stared at his hand, strong, scarred, capable of such violence and yet extended to me with surprising gentleness. I wanted to take it more than I'd wanted anything in years, and that wanting terrified me. Why do you care? I asked, my voice cracking slightly. You don't even know me. I want to know you. That's the point. But why? I'm just another Omega in a city full of them. No. His voice was firm. You're not. You're extraordinary, Wushik. You're brilliant and beautiful and broken, and all I want is the chance to show you that not everyone will hurt you. You can't promise that. You're right, I can't. His honesty was refreshing in its brutality. I'm not a good man, Wushik. I've done terrible things, hurt people, destroyed lives. But I would never hurt you. Not intentionally. Everyone says that. I know. And I know you have no reason to believe me. He withdrew his hand, and I hated the relief and disappointment that flooded through me in equal measure. So I won't ask you to trust me. I'll just ask you to give me the chance to earn it. How? Let me be your friend first. No expectations, no pressure. Just, let me know you. It was such a simple request, and yet it felt monumental. Friendship implied trust, connection, vulnerability, all the things I'd spent 5 years avoiding. I don't need friends, I said, but even I could hear how weak it sounded. Everyone needs friends, Wushik. Even people like us who've learned to survive alone. The dinner continued, but something had shifted. Payuo kept his word. He didn't push, didn't demand, didn't try to cross the boundaries I'd established. Instead, he told me about his life, about growing up in a world where weakness meant death, about building his empire not through inheritance but through strategy and strength. My father thought I was too soft, he said with a bitter laugh. An alpha with a conscience was a liability in his world. So I learned to hide it, to be what he needed me to be. By the time he died, I'd become exactly what he wanted. Do you regret it? He considered the question. I regret that I had to become it. But I don't regret surviving. I understood that in a way I didn't want to examine too closely. By the time dessert arrived, we'd been talking for 3 hours. The restaurant staff was starting to hover, clearly wanting to close, but too terrified of Payuo to say anything. We should go, I said, checking my phone and surprised by how late it had gotten. Let me drive you home, Payuo offered. I have a car. Then let me walk you to it. It was such a small thing, but it felt significant. I nodded. The walk to my car was quiet, but it was a comfortable silence rather than an awkward one. When we reached my Mercedes, Payuo opened the door for me, another small gesture that shouldn't have meant anything but somehow did. Thank you for tonight, he said. For giving me a chance. Don't thank me yet. This was just dinner. I know. But it's a start. He stepped back, giving me space. Can I see you again? As friends? I should say no. Every rational part of my brain screamed at me to end this now, before it became something I couldn't control. But there was something in his eyes, hope, maybe, or loneliness that mirrored my own, that made me hesitate. Maybe, I said finally. Call me. We'll see. His smile was like sunrise. I'll take maybe. Payuo did call. 3 days later, with an invitation to an art gallery opening. No romance, he promised. Just 2 friends appreciating culture. I went, telling myself it meant nothing. Then there was a charity gala where he needed a date and promised it was purely professional. I went to that too. Then coffee, then lunch, then a walk through the park where cherry blossoms were just starting to bloom. Weeks turned into months, and somehow, impossibly, Jung Payuo became a constant in my life. We talked about everything, business, philosophy, our pasts, our fears. He never pushed for more than I was willing to give, never made me feel pressured or trapped. And that was the problem. Because I was starting to crave his presence like air. I found myself checking my phone for his messages, smiling at stupid jokes he'd send in the middle of the day, looking forward to our next meeting with an anticipation that terrified me. You're falling for him, Taeyang said one afternoon when he caught me smiling at my phone. I am not, I protested, but even I didn't believe it. Wushik, everyone can see it. The question is, what are you going to do about it? What was I going to do about it? The answer should have been simple. End it before I got hurt again. That's what the old me would have done, the me I'd carefully constructed over 5 years of pain and determination. But this new me, the one Payuo was slowly coaxing out of hiding, wanted something different. It came to a head on a rainy Tuesday evening. We were at Payuo's penthouse, bigger and more luxurious than mine, overlooking the Han River. We'd fallen into the habit of these quiet evenings, just talking and being together. I have a confession, Payuo said suddenly, setting down his wine glass. My heart clenched. Here it was, the betrayal, the revelation that would prove I'd been right all along to keep my walls up. What? I asked, bracing myself. I'm in love with you. Of all the things I'd expected, that wasn't it. I stared at him, speechless. I know you're not ready to hear it, he continued, his voice steady despite the vulnerability in his eyes. I know you probably never will be. But I can't keep pretending I just want friendship when every time I see you, all I want is to hold you, kiss you, make you mine in every possible way. Payuo. Let me finish. He stood up, began pacing. I know your history. I know why you don't trust, why you can't let anyone in. And I've tried to respect that, tried to be patient. But Wushik, I'm going crazy. Every time you smile at me, every time we talk and I see glimpses of the person you are underneath all those defenses, I fall harder. You don't understand, I said, standing too. I can't do this again. I'm not them. He stepped closer and I could feel the heat of his body, smell his intoxicating scent. I'm not going to cheat on you, betray you, or treat you like an experiment. I love you, Wushik. Actually, genuinely love you. How can you know that? We've only known each other a few months. Because I've never felt like this before. Because you're the first thing I think about when I wake up and the last thing before I sleep. Because when I imagine my future, you're in it. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly it hurt. But the scars on my heart were too deep. I need time, I whispered. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. But time was exactly what I couldn't give him. Because the more time we spent together, the more I felt myself falling, and falling meant vulnerability, and vulnerability meant pain. So I did what I'd always done. I pulled away. It started subtly. I canceled plans at the last minute, claiming work emergencies. I stopped responding to texts as quickly. When we did see each other, I was distant, distracted, cold. And then I started seeing other people. Not seriously, I could never be serious with anyone but Payuo, though I'd die before admitting it. But I made sure he knew about them. Taeyong again, a few others from my business circles. I posted pictures on social media, let rumors circulate. It was cruel. I knew it was cruel. But cruelty was my armor, and if I hurt Payuo before he could hurt me, then I'd still have some control. The problem was, it wasn't working. Instead of backing off like everyone else always did, Payuo doubled down. He showed up at my office with lunch. He sent flowers with notes that said things like, I know what you're doing and I'm still not leaving. He called me out directly. You're trying to push me away, he said one night when he'd cornered me at a business function. You're trying to make me jealous, make me angry enough to give up on you. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. His hand caught my chin, forcing me to look at him. The touch was gentle but firm and it sent sparks through my entire body. You're scared. You're terrified that I might actually mean what I say, that I might actually love you, so you're doing everything you can to sabotage this before it even begins. You're delusional, I said, but my voice shook. Am I? Then look me in the eye and tell me you feel nothing for me. Tell me that these past months have meant nothing, that you don't think about me, don't want me. I opened my mouth to lie, but the words wouldn't come. Because he was right. About all of it. I hate you, I whispered instead. No, you don't. You hate that you care about me. There's a difference. He was too close, his scent overwhelming my senses, his eyes seeing too much. I did the only thing I could think of. I kissed him. It was meant to be punishing, a way to prove I was still in control. But the moment our lips met, something inside me broke open. 5 years of locked-away emotion came flooding out, and I kissed him like I was drowning and he was air. Payuo responded immediately, his arms coming around me, pulling me close. His lips were firm and demanding, his tongue sweeping into my mouth with a possessiveness that should have scared me but instead made me melt. We broke apart panting, and I could see my own desire reflected in his dark eyes. Come home with me, he said, his voice rough. Payuo's penthouse was dark when we arrived, only the city lights filtering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. We'd barely made it through the door before we were kissing again, desperate and hungry. His hands were everywhere, sliding through my hair, running down my spine, gripping my hips. I tugged at his jacket, his shirt, needing to feel skin against skin. Wushik, he breathed against my lips. Tell me you want this. Tell me I'm not alone in this. I want this, I admitted, the words torn from somewhere deep inside me. I want you. I hate that I want you, but I do. Then have me. We stumbled toward the bedroom, leaving a trail of clothes behind us. By the time we reached the bed, we were both shirtless, and I could finally see what I'd only imagined, Payuo's powerful chest, the muscles defined by years of combat training, the scars that told stories of a violent life. I traced one scar with my finger. Does it hurt? Not anymore. He caught my hand, brought it to his lips. The only thing that hurts is thinking about losing you. The tenderness in his gesture made my throat tight. I kissed him again, needing to drown out the emotions threatening to overwhelm me. Payuo lowered me onto the bed, his body covering mine, and the weight of him felt right in a way nothing else ever had. His lips traveled down my neck, finding my scent gland and making me gasp. So beautiful, he murmured against my skin. So perfect. His hand slid lower, fingers tracing the waistband of my trousers. Can I? I nodded, beyond words now. He removed the rest of our clothing with surprising gentleness, and then we were skin to skin, nothing between us but want and need. I've dreamed about this, Payuo said, his hand wrapping around my length, making me arch into his touch. About having you like this, watching you come undone. Then stop talking and do it, I managed, making him laugh. So demanding. I love that about you. He kissed his way down my body, his mouth hot and wet against my pale skin. When he took my length between his lips, I cried out, my hands fisting in the sheets. Payuo, please. Please what? He looked up at me, his eyes dark with desire. I need you inside me. He reached for the bedside table, producing supplies with the efficiency of someone who'd prepared for this possibility. His fingers were slick as they worked me open, first one, then two, stretching me in the most delicious way. More, I demanded, and he added a third finger, scissoring them in a way that made stars explode behind my eyelids. So eager, he said, but there was wonder in his voice. So responsive. When he finally positioned himself at my entrance, we both paused, the significance of the moment hanging between us. This changes everything, Payuo said quietly. I know. Are you sure? Instead of answering, I pulled him down into a kiss and rolled my hips, taking him inside me in one smooth motion. We both groaned at the sensation, the perfect stretch, the overwhelming fullness. God, Wushik, Payuo breathed. You feel incredible. He started to move, slow at first, letting me adjust to his size. But I didn't want gentle. I wanted to lose myself in this, to forget everything except the way he felt inside me. Harder, I demanded, and he complied, his hips snapping forward with more force. The rhythm built between us, perfect and primal. His mouth found mine again, swallowing my moans as pleasure built higher and higher. His hand wrapped around my length, stroking in time with his movements, and I felt myself spiraling toward release. Come for me, Payuo commanded. Let me see you. The authority in his voice pushed me over the edge. I came with a cry, my body tightening around him as waves of pleasure crashed over me. Payuo followed moments later, my name on his lips like a prayer. We collapsed together, breathing hard, skin slicked with sweat. Payuo pulled out carefully and gathered me against his chest, his arms a shelter I'd never thought I'd want. Stay, he murmured against my hair. Don't run from this. And for the first time in 5 years, I didn't want to. I woke up wrapped in Payuo's arms, morning light streaming through the windows. For a moment, I let myself enjoy it. The warmth of his body, the steady beat of his heart beneath my ear, the safety of his embrace. Then reality crashed in, and with it, panic. I'd done exactly what I'd sworn I'd never do again. I'd let someone in. I'd been vulnerable. I'd given someone the power to hurt me. I carefully extracted myself from Payuo's arms, grateful that he was a heavy sleeper. I gathered my clothes, dressing quickly and quietly. I needed to leave, needed to think, needed to figure out how to protect myself from the inevitable pain that was coming. Running away? Payuo's voice made me freeze. He was awake, propped up on one elbow, watching me with those two knowing eyes. I have meetings, I lied. It's Saturday. I still have work to do. He sat up fully, the sheet pooling around his waist. Wushik, talk to me. There's nothing to talk about. We just spent the night together. We made love. And now you're sneaking out like it meant nothing. It didn't mean anything, I said, the lie tasting bitter on my tongue. It was just sex. Scratching an itch. Don't make it into something it's not. The hurt that flashed across his face made me feel like the worst person alive, but I couldn't stop. This was survival. I don't believe you, he said quietly. Believe whatever you want. I'm leaving. I made it to the door before he spoke again. I meant what I said last night. I love you, Wushik. And I know you're scared, I know you think I'm going to hurt you like the others did. But I won't. You can't promise that. You're right. But I can promise that I'll try. That I'll fight for you, for us, even when you're fighting against me. I left without responding, practically running to my car. My hands were shaking as I drove home, tears I refused to acknowledge blurring my vision. What had I done? The next weeks were torture. I threw myself into work, accepting every invitation from potential suitors, posting pictures and making sure Payuo saw them. I was vicious in my manipulation, calculating in my cruelty. And through it all, Payuo didn't give up. He showed up at my office. He called and texted. He sent me messages that were alternately angry, hurt, understanding, and loving. He saw through every manipulation, called out every game I played, and somehow still didn't leave. Why won't you just give up? I finally screamed at him one night when he'd shown up at my apartment. Why can't you just accept that I don't want you? Because it's a lie, he said calmly. And we both know it. You're delusional. Am I? Then why do you check your phone every 5 minutes to see if I've texted? Why do your hands shake when I'm near? Why did you cry my name when we made love? That was just. Don't. His voice turned hard. Don't you dare minimize what happened between us. Don't you dare pretend it was just physical when we both know it was so much more. What do you want from me? I asked, exhausted from fighting myself as much as him. I want you to stop running. I want you to give us a real chance. I want you to trust that I'm not like the others. I can't. Yes, you can. You're just choosing not to. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. He stepped closer and I could see he was at the end of his patience. I understand that you're so afraid of being hurt again that you're willing to hurt me first. I understand that you think pushing me away will keep you safe. But Wushik, you're not safe. You're just alone. The truth of his words hit me like a physical blow. I see what you're doing, he continued, his voice softer now. The manipulation, the games, the way you're trying to make me jealous or angry enough to leave. And I want you to know something. I know. I've known from the beginning. And I love you anyway. You can't love me, I whispered. Not really. Not knowing what I am, what I do. But I do. Payuo cupped my face in his hands, forcing me to meet his eyes. I love every part of you, Wushik. The brilliant businessman, the broken Omega, the manipulative player. All of it. Because all of it is you. How? The word came out broken. How can you love someone who's trying to hurt you? Because I understand why you're doing it. Because I know the pain that made you this way. Because underneath all those defenses, I see the person you used to be, the person you could be again if you just let yourself. I don't know how to be that person anymore. Then let me help you remember. And just like that, the walls I'd spent 5 years building came crashing down. I broke, truly broke, in a way I hadn't allowed myself to since Minjun. Tears streamed down my face as 5 years of pain, loneliness, and self-protection finally found release. Payuo pulled me into his arms, holding me as I sobbed against his chest. He didn't try to shush me or tell me it would be okay. He just held me, his hand running soothingly through my hair, his presence a steady anchor in my storm. I'm so tired, I finally managed between sobs. I'm so tired of being alone, of not trusting anyone, of hurting people before they can hurt me. I know, baby. I know. But I don't know how to stop. I don't know how to trust you, how to believe that you won't leave like everyone else did. You don't have to figure it all out right now. We'll take it one day at a time. One moment at a time. He pulled back enough to look at me, his thumbs wiping away my tears. But you have to stop pushing me away. You have to let me in even when it's scary. What if you hurt me? Then I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. But Wushik, what if I don't? What if this is real and we could actually be happy together? Are you willing to throw that away because of what might happen? I thought about the past months with Payuo. The conversations, the laughter, the way he made me feel seen in a way no one else ever had. I thought about the night we'd spent together, the tenderness mixed with passion. I thought about all the times he could have walked away but didn't. I'm scared, I admitted. Me too. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. I kissed him then, pouring every emotion I couldn't voice into the contact. It was different from our previous kisses. Less desperate, more honest. A promise rather than a taking. I love you, I whispered against his lips. I think I've loved you since that first dinner, and it terrifies me. His smile was radiant. Say it again. I love you, Jung Payuo. Despite everything, despite my fear, despite my scars, I love you. He kissed me again, deeper this time, his hands sliding into my hair. I've waited so long to hear you say that. I'm still going to be difficult, I warned. I'm still going to have moments where I panic and try to run. I'm still going to test you to see if you'll leave. I know. And I'll be here every time, catching you when you run, proving that I'm staying. The next months were a study in contradictions. For every step forward I took, there were 2 steps back. For every moment of vulnerability, there was a defensive retreat. But Payuo kept his word. He stayed. When I deliberately flirted with someone at a business dinner to test his reaction, he simply took my hand and introduced himself as my partner. When I canceled 3 dates in a row because fear got the better of me, he showed up at my apartment with takeout and didn't push, just sat with me. When I said cruel things designed to make him leave, he told me he loved me and walked away to give me space but always came back. You're impossible, I told him one evening as we lay tangled together in his bed. So are you? We're well matched. I traced the scar on his chest that I'd come to know so well. Do you ever regret this? Choosing me? Never. Do you regret letting me in? I considered the question honestly. Sometimes I'm still scared. Sometimes I still want to run. But no, I don't regret it. That's progress. It was progress. Slow, painful, 2 steps forward, 1 step back progress, but progress nonetheless. I was learning to trust again, to be vulnerable, to believe that not everyone would betray me. Payuo was learning too. Learning to give me space when I needed it, learning to read my moods, learning when to push and when to retreat. I want you to meet my mother, he said one day. I nearly choked on my coffee. You're what? My mother. She's visiting from Busan next week and I want her to meet you. Payuo, that's a big step. I know. But you're not a secret, Wushik. You're my partner and I want the people who matter to me to know you. Meeting his mother was terrifying. She was a small, elegant woman who looked nothing like her dangerous son, but who had the same penetrating gaze. So you're the Omega who's captured my son's heart, she said, looking me up and down. Yes, I suppose I am. Good. She smiled warmly. It's about time someone broke through that wall he built around himself. You're good for him. He's good for me too, I admitted. And he was. Payuo had shown me that love didn't have to mean pain, that trust didn't have to lead to betrayal. He'd been patient with my brokenness and gentle with my healing. 6 months after that first confession, Payuo took me to the beach, the same beach where I'd scattered the ashes of my old self after Kwangmin's betrayal. Why here? I asked. Because I know what this place means to you. This is where you decided to close yourself off to love. I wanted to ask you something here where it all began. My heart started racing. Payuo. He pulled out a small box and inside was a simple platinum ring. I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet. But I'm asking you to commit to this, to us for real. No more running, no more testing. Just you and me building something real. Tears welled in my eyes. You know I'm still broken, right? That I'm still going to have bad days and moments of doubt. I know. And I'm still going to love you through all of it. So what do you say, Beyond Wushik? Will you take this chance with me? I looked at the ring, then at the man holding it. The man who'd seen me at my worst and loved me anyway. The man who'd fought for me when I was fighting against myself. The man who'd shown me that love didn't have to hurt. Yes, I said, and it felt like coming home. Yes, I'll take this chance. I'll take you. All of you. He slipped the ring on my finger and kissed me, soft and sweet and full of promise. The waves crashed behind us, washing away the ashes of who I used to be and leaving space for who I was becoming. 1 year later. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my tie for the 3rd time. My reflection looked back at me, same pale skin, same red lips, same curly dark hair. But my eyes were different now. They weren't empty anymore. You look perfect, Payuo said from the doorway. I turned to face him, my husband-to-be, dressed in his own suit and looking devastatingly handsome. I'm nervous. About the wedding or about committing to me forever? He teased. Both. Neither. I don't know. I laughed, shaking my head. A year ago, I never would have believed I'd be here. And now I can't imagine being anywhere else. He crossed the room and took my hands. You know I'm going to spend the rest of our lives proving that I meant every promise I made to you. I know. And I'm going to spend the rest of mine trying to be worthy of your love. You already are. The wedding was small, just close friends and family. Taeyang was my best man, having forgiven me for all the times I'd used him in my manipulative games. Payuo's mother cried happy tears. And when we exchanged vows, I meant every word. I, Beyond Wushik, promise to trust you even when it's hard, to be vulnerable even when it's scary, and to choose you every day for the rest of our lives. I, Jung Payuo, promise to love every version of you, to catch you when you fall, and to remind you that you're safe with me always. That night, in the hotel suite overlooking the city we both loved, Payuo made love to me with a tenderness that still made me cry. I love you, he whispered as he moved inside me, his hands intertwined with mine. Every broken piece, every scar, every defense mechanism, I love all of it. I love you too, I gasped, my body arching to meet his. Thank you for not giving up on me. Never. I'll never give up on you. Later, wrapped in each other's arms, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The pain, the betrayal, the years of protecting myself, they'd all led to this moment, to this man, to this love. What are you thinking about? Payuo asked, his fingers tracing patterns on my bare shoulder. That maybe I needed to be broken to find you. That maybe all that pain was leading me here. Or maybe, he said, you were never broken at all. Maybe you were just waiting for someone who could see you clearly enough to help you put yourself back together. That's very philosophical for someone who kills people for a living. He laughed. Even mafia bosses can be romantic. I smiled, turning to kiss him. My romantic mafia boss. Your husband, the romantic mafia boss. That's going to take some getting used to. We have forever to get used to it. Forever. The word used to terrify me. Now it felt like a gift, because I'd learned that love didn't have to hurt, that trust could be rebuilt, that broken hearts could heal if given to the right person. And Jung Payuo was definitely the right person. As I drifted off to sleep in his arms, I thought about the Wushik I used to be, the one who was so afraid of pain that he inflicted it on others first. I didn't miss him, but I was grateful to him for surviving long enough to find this. Because this love, this trust, this partnership, was worth every moment of fear I'd pushed through to get here. And when I woke up the next morning to Payuo's smile and the sunrise painting our room in shades of gold, I knew with absolute certainty that I'd made the right choice. Love hadn't destroyed me. It had saved me. The soft patter of tiny feet running down the hallway made me smile even before our bedroom door burst open. Appa. Papa. Wake up. Our 3-year-old daughter, Minji, launched herself onto the bed with the enthusiasm only a toddler could possess. Payuo groaned beside me, but I could see the smile tugging at his lips. It's 6 in the morning, little one. But the sun is awake. Minji declared, her dark curls, so like mine, bouncing as she jumped between us. I caught her mid-bounce, pulling her into my arms and tickling her sides until she squealed with laughter. The sun doesn't need as much sleep as your papas do. But I made you breakfast. She wriggled free and grabbed both our hands. Mrs. Kim helped me. Payuo and I exchanged amused glances. Our housekeeper had clearly been recruited for another of Minji's elaborate plans. All right, I conceded, letting our daughter pull me out of bed. Let's see this breakfast. An hour later, after consuming slightly burnt toast and overly sweet juice that Minji had insisted on making all by myself, our daughter was contentedly watching cartoons in the living room with Mrs. Kim keeping watch. She's going to be as stubborn as you, Payuo said, wrapping his arms around my waist from behind as I rinsed dishes. She's going to be as protective as you, I countered, leaning back against his chest. Did you see how she tried to fight that boy at the playground yesterday for taking her friend's toy? She gets that from both of us. He pressed a kiss to my neck, right over my mating mark, and I shivered. Even after 3 years of marriage, his touch still affected me like this. Payuo, I warned, though my voice came out breathless. Minji is right in the other room. Minji is completely absorbed in her show, and Mrs. Kim will keep her occupied. His hand slid under my shirt, warm palms against my skin. When was the last time we had time just for us? He had a point. Between running my business, his various enterprises, and raising our energetic daughter, moments alone had become precious and rare. Tonight, I promised, turning in his arms. After Minji goes to sleep. His eyes darkened with promise. I'm holding you to that. That evening, after what felt like hours of bedtime stories, lullabies, and just one more glass of water please, Minji finally fell asleep. I stood in the doorway of her room, watching her small form curled up with the stuffed wolf Payuo had given her. She's perfect, Payuo whispered behind me, his arms coming around my waist. She is, I agreed softly. I never thought, after everything, I never imagined I could have this. A family. Real happiness. You deserve it. You deserve everything good in this world. I turned to face him, reaching up to cup his jaw. I have everything I need right here. He kissed me then, slow and deep, and I melted into him the way I always did. No matter how many times we kissed, it never lost its magic. Bedroom, he murmured against my lips. Now. We made it to our room, barely breaking the kiss. Payuo closed and locked the door behind us, a necessity with a curious toddler in the house, and pulled me back into his arms. I love you, he said like he did every day, like he'd never tire of saying it. I love you too, I replied, meaning it with every fiber of my being. He walked me backward toward the bed, his hands already working on the buttons of my shirt. I helped him, then reached for his own clothing, needing to feel his skin against mine. When we were finally bare, Payuo laid me back on the bed with a gentleness that still made my heart flutter. His eyes roamed over me, dark with desire but also with love. You're so beautiful, he said like he was seeing me for the first time. Every time I look at you, I fall in love all over again. Flatterer, I teased, but my voice was thick with emotion. Truth teller. He settled between my thighs, his weight comfortable and familiar. Let me show you how much I love you. His kisses traced down my neck, across my collarbones, over my chest. He took his time, worshipping every inch of skin as if committing it to memory. When his mouth closed around one nipple, I arched into him with a soft gasp. Payuo, please? Patience, baby. I want to savor you. His hand wrapped around my length, stroking slowly, and I bit my lip to keep from crying out. We had to be quiet now, mindful of small ears that might wake. You feel so good in my hand, he murmured, his thumbs circling the tip and making me tremble. I love watching you like this, seeing you come undone for me. Need you, I managed, my hands clutching at his shoulders. Need you inside me. He reached for the bedside table, retrieving what we needed. His fingers were slick as they worked me open, one then two, stretching me carefully despite how many times we'd done this. Always so tight, he breathed, watching his fingers disappear inside me. So perfect for me. More? I demanded quietly, rolling my hips. I'm ready. He added a third finger, scissoring them in that way that made stars burst behind my eyes. When he finally withdrew and positioned himself at my entrance, we both paused, eyes locked. I love you, he said again. I love you, I echoed. He pushed inside slowly, carefully, giving me time to adjust to his length. The stretch was delicious, the fullness exactly what I craved. When he was fully seated, we both let out shaky breaths. Okay? He asked, always checking, always making sure. Perfect, I assured him. Move, please. He started with slow, deep rolls of his hips, pulling almost all the way out before sliding back in. The pace was unhurried, tender, each movement a declaration of love rather than just passion. You feel amazing, he whispered, his forehead pressed to mine. Like you were made for me. I agreed breathlessly. We were made for each other. He kissed me as he moved, swallowing my quiet moans. His hand found my length again, stroking in rhythm with his movements, and I felt pleasure building like a wave. Not going to last, I warned, my fingers digging into his back. That's okay. Let go for me, baby. Let me see you. A few more strokes and I was coming with a muffled cry against his shoulder, my body tightening around him. The sensation triggered his own release, and he buried his face in my neck as he followed me over the edge. We lay tangled together afterward, hearts racing, skin cooling in the air-conditioned room. Payuo pulled out gently and rolled to his side, pulling me against his chest. That never gets old, I said, my fingers tracing lazy patterns on his chest. Never, he agreed, pressing a kiss to my hair. I could make love to you every day for the rest of our lives and never tire of it. Good, because I plan on holding you to that for the next 50 or 60 years. He laughed softly. Only 50 or 60. I was hoping for longer. Greedy alpha. You're greedy alpha. I tilted my head up to kiss him, soft and sweet. Always mine. Always yours, he confirmed. In this life and every one after. We lay in comfortable silence for a while, just enjoying being close. Through the baby monitor on the nightstand, we could hear Minji's soft breathing, peaceful in sleep. Thank you, I said suddenly. For what? For not giving up on me. For loving me when I didn't know how to love myself. For giving me this, our daughter, our home, our life together. Payuo tilted my chin up, his eyes serious. Wishik, you gave me just as much. You taught me that I could be more than what my father made me. That I could love and be loved. That I deserved happiness too. We saved each other, I said softly. We did. He kissed my forehead, my nose, my lips. And I'd do it all again, every moment of pain and struggle, if it meant ending up here with you. Me too. Papa? Appa? Minji's sleepy voice came through the monitor. I had a dream. Payuo groaned. Duty calls. I'll go, I offered, starting to sit up, but he pulled me back. We'll both go. We're a team, remember? We quickly dressed and padded down the hall to Minji's room. She was sitting up in bed, rubbing her eyes, her stuffed wolf clutched to her chest. What was your dream about, sweetheart? I asked, sitting on the edge of her bed while Payuo leaned against the doorframe. I dreamed we were all flying, she said, her face lighting up. High up in the clouds and we could see everything and we were so happy. That's a beautiful dream, I told her, smoothing her curls back from her face. Will it come true? I looked at Payuo, who was smiling at both of us with so much love it made my chest ache. Then I looked back at our daughter, at her hopeful little face. You know what? I said. I think in a way it already has. We might not be flying in the clouds, but we are seeing everything beautiful in the world. And we are so happy. Because we have each other, Minji said wisely, like she understood something profound. Exactly, Payuo said, coming to join us on the bed. Because we have each other and we love each other, and that's better than flying. Can you both stay until I fall asleep again? Minji asked, already snuggling back under her covers. Of course, we said in unison. We lay on either side of her, and she immediately curled into me while reaching for Payuo's hand. Within minutes she was breathing deeply, asleep once more. We should go back to our room, I whispered, but made no move to leave. In a minute, Payuo whispered back. I just want to stay like this a little longer. So we did, lying there with our daughter between us, feeling the weight of how blessed we were. 3 years ago I'd been standing at an altar, promising Payuo forever. Now here we were, living that forever, and it was more beautiful than I ever could have imagined. Yes, I still had moments of fear. Yes, sometimes my old insecurities tried to surface. But Payuo was always there, steady and sure, reminding me that this love was real, that it was lasting, that it was safe. And now we had Minji too. Proof that broken people could heal, that damaged hearts could love fully again, that happy endings weren't just for fairy tales. As I finally drifted off to sleep there in our daughter's room, Payuo's hand finding mine over Minji's small body, I thought about the Beyond Wushik from 5 years ago. The one who was so hurt, so afraid, so determined never to love again. I wished I could tell him that it would all be okay. That the pain wouldn't last forever. That one day he'd meet someone who would love him unconditionally, fight for him relentlessly, and never, ever give up on him. I wished I could tell him that he'd have a family, a home filled with love and laughter, and a happiness so profound it would make all the heartache worthwhile. But maybe he already knew deep down. Maybe that's why he survived long enough to find this. Because this, lying here with my husband and daughter, wrapped in love and safety, this was worth every single moment of pain it took to get here. And I wouldn't change a single thing.